Here's a question for you. I'm an avid ink changer in my pens, but always find it a hassle to clean out a pen when I want to switch a color. What are the best pen filling types for people who like to clean their pens easily? Okay, great question. Me personally, I mean, this is a personal thing. Everybody's got a different style, different, opinions and stuff like that. I think that the easiest pens to use if you're changing your inks a lot is a cartridge converter pen. It's easy enough to use. It doesn't have a massive ink capacity like a vacuum filler or a piston filler might, but if you're changing your ink a lot, you're not going to need a lot of ink anyway because you're wanting to change it. If you're anything like me, usually I'll fill a converter and by the time I'm like a third through it, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to try the next ink. I have some pens where I commit a little bit more than that. But for the most part, if I'm using a pen, I just want to try different inks. That's part of the fun, is being able to change and try different inks. 560 different colors or whatever it is we have now. I can hardly keep track because it changes so often. But that's a lot of ink. It's really, really a lot of ink. So one thing that I like, and I'm going to bust out the old dark lilac here to demonstrate, just to make you mad. So here's a dark lilac, and this is a cartridge converter pen. So you can use a converter or a cartridge on it. But then when it comes time to clean it out, you can use a bulb syringe, and you just stick it in the back, flush it out. This holds 2 ounces of ink in here, or sorry, 2 ounces of water in here, so which is more than enough to flush this thing clean. So you just fill it up with water once, you press it down through, it flushes it out. You take a little paper towel to it, and then, do I have a paper towel handy? Here we go. Take a little paper towel to it, soak up the extra water that comes out of the feed, and voila, you have a clean pen. It takes like 30 seconds, like I'm not joking. It's so easy to clean. There's just nothing else that's going to be that fast. If you're dealing with a vacuum filling pen, those are really, really a pain, unless you can disassemble it, which you don't want to do that all the time. You can do that, especially if you have something like a TWSBI. It's not the worst thing. You can do that. The piston or the vacuum fillers. A lot of people disassemble the piston fillers and have a hard time getting them back together. That's a whole other thing. But you can actually disassemble the TWSBIs and a couple other vacuum fillers that are out there. Maybe it would help if I pull it out all the way. So I can pull out the whole mechanism, and then I can actually just use a bulb syringe and just flush it out the back like that. And it works very similar to a cartridge converter. It does leave a little bit more extra water in there, so you gotta kind of shake it out and maybe use a Q-tip and kind of swab it out. But that is kind of cool. So even though this is not a cartridge converter pen, it's still, oh gosh, can I get this thing back in here? There we go. Even though it's not a cartridge converter pen, you can still do the same bulb syringe trick like a cartridge converter pen, which I love to do. Same thing, I've got a TWSBI Eco here. So if I'm using my Eco and I want to flush it out, all I got to do is undo the piston a little bit here, use my wrench, get that in here, unscrew it. I want to try to keep the mechanism all together, so I may want to ratchet down the piston a little bit before I take it all the way out. Where people get into trouble is when the piston rod comes out and then they try to set it back in, but they've twisted the knob in a different fashion, and then, as I just did, oh gosh, I might have some work to do on this one. Yep, there we go. Look at that, I just did that myself. Trying to demonstrate how people do it, I actually ended up doing it myself. Okay, there we go. You can do the same kind of thing, so you end up with just the body of the pen basically. You can take your bulb syringe and then just flush it out. One flush will pretty much do it on most inks, and then you're pretty good, and you just reassemble the thing. Let's see how I did with this one actually. Let's see if I got it set back in the right place. I get more questions, and my team gets more questions on how to reassemble the Eco and the 580 than you could possibly believe. Look at that, I didn't quite get it in the right spot. Okay, I'm gonna fix it later because that's not really the point of this whole question. A little project for Brian after the show. The things I do behind the scenes that you guys don't even realize. Let's see here, some other things like that. I absolutely hate cleaning out lever fillers and basically anything with a sack, so like crescent fillers and things like that, because there's really no way to speed up the process. You really just have to flush and fill and flush and fill and flush and fill and flush and fill over and over and over again. And you have to wait like 10 seconds each time you press that sack in whatever fashion it is. And it's really a pain. Button fillers I'm not too wild about either. So really I'm just kind of annoyed by those. But specifically talking about the bulb syringe, there's something I want to show you guys. I talked about this a lot, about snipping the bulb syringe. So this is for certain styles of pen, like the Pilot Falcon. Sheaffer too is like this, and there's a couple other brands where, you know, they don't have a nice clean place for you to be able to, I'm gonna zoom in, for you to be able to stick your bulb syringe in there, because just the way they design these, you can see it has this kind of shroud around the back of the feed. So I can put a bulb syringe in here, but it doesn't fit cleanly. I mean, I can kind of like jam it and mesh it in there so that it will kind of work, but it's still going to be squirting water out, and I got to really kind of force it to make it happen. So what I like to do with pens that are designed like this, where they don't have this nice kind of deep indent where I can put the bulb syringe into, is I take a bulb syringe and I actually cut the end of it so that it can fit over top of said grip section. And I find that if you cut it at just about the right size, it's pretty universal. It'll fit on most size pens. So really, I mean, I could get more scientific about this, but I just kind of look about where the diameter of the grip is and about where it is, maybe a little bit more, because you got to account for the thickness of the bulb syringe. You know, and I'll kind of err on the side of caution, because you can always cut off more, but you can't really put it back. So I'll just kind of use scissors and cut it. And I can put it in here. That will fit, but it's kind of forcing it, so I'm going to cut just a little bit more. There, that's just about perfect. So that fits in there pretty nicely. And so then this, I can use the same method. I can just, you know, fill my bulb syringe with water, jam the grip section in here, and then I hold onto the grip because I don't want to go shooting it out of the pen, and then I just push on the back and it flushes it straight out of the pen. So I can use this on my Sheaffers and my pilots and things like that. You know, you do have to basically sacrifice a bulb syringe to make it happen, but I keep one of these, one of each of these nearby anywhere that I'm cleaning pens. And that's a neat little trick that you can do for those style of pens that happen to be cartridge converter or whatever. So hopefully that helps you out. My mic is like doing weird things. I hope it's not making a scruffy noise into the camera, but forgive me if it is, or it has been this far. Okay, cool. I think that about covered that. Yeah, it did. Sweet.